the biggest marketing that we had, which was our feature on Dragon's Den. So that really blew up the business. So we got asked to go on Dragon's Den back in 2020, I want to say, with our episode airing in 2021. And we couldn't have imagined the response that we got from that. Like, we completely sold out of stock within about 5 minutes.
Wow.
We had a record. I think it's still one of our best performing days in history. Just because of the sheer amount of exposure that we got. So that was amazing because people could, they got to see the founders explain the product, give the education. And that was almost like a litmus test for us because we got to see, okay, when we are in front of people and we tell them what we are and why we are doing it, this is the response that we get. So we knew from then that getting kind of vocal education across was going to be the most important thing for the brand.
When Dragon's Den aired, what was the response in terms of, I guess, like, you don't have to give like specific numbers, but in terms of like sales, social media uptick and like, I don't know, messages, like what was the response literally on that day or within 5 minutes of it airing?
Yeah, it was crazy. So I remember we were all at our co-founder Simon's house, and Ads, who is one of our other co-founders, had the Shopify app up on his phone. And it was from kind of 30 seconds in, it was just going ding, 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 with just orders coming through. And we hadn't really told, like, at that point, we were stocked in Boots. They were our first retailer. And we hadn't really told anyone that we were going to go on it because they don't actually tell you before you go on, like, what they're going to show. So we were all a little bit nervous because obviously, they can cut it in any way they want. So we didn't really tell anyone. And we had our warehouse calling us and saying, what the hell is going on? Like, is the system broken? Like, what's happening? And we were like, oh, no, we went on Dragon's Den. Then Boots emailed us, guys, what's happened? We need more stock, like, tomorrow. Obviously, we had no stock. We sold it all out. So, yeah, it was a really busy few days, but the response was amazing. And yeah, socials, our emails went crazy with customer queries. When's this going to be back in stock? When can I do this? Like, have you thought about this? And yeah, it was really nice. Like, people gave us some amazing ideas for the brand because this was so early on. But yeah, we ended up getting 2 offers from Tej and Deborah, but we turned them down because they wanted far too much of the business.
With Dragon's Den and FMCG products, I feel like it's such a marriage made in heaven because people can just buy it instantly. It's not like a SaaS service that's like B2B, and it's just perfect in my opinion. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting the response from you that any FMCG product should be trying to get on Dragon's Den. But in terms of like the business before and after Dragon's Den, because you always hear stories of, stock selling out literally within 5 minutes of it being there. But then are there any like long-term like benefits? Like what long-term benefits have you guys got from like the post Dragon's Den experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, like, brand awareness is the number one thing. I mean, even to this day, we still get people saying us, oh yeah, I saw you on Dragon's Den, or oh yeah, I think, weren't you on Dragon's Den?
And that's like a few years on.
Yeah, but it's like 4 years on, 3 years on now, which is great. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, is just brand awareness. People now understand the product format a lot better. Obviously, yeah, there's other things like, we had a massive uplift in customers, some of which are still, a lot of which are still with us today, which is fantastic. But yeah, the brand awareness piece was probably the best thing. But also for our 2 founders, Simon and Rona, who were the ones that did the pitch, we're currently now going through our own funding round. So I think that experience of having that high pressure pitching and, experience, and especially for dentists where they don't come from FMCG, they've been on this really steep learning curve where now, they're still in the clinic, but they know how to run an FMCG business. So they've massively upskilled themselves, which is amazing. And I think that experience of Dragon's Den has really carried through the rest of the business and allowed them to be, leaders of this brand, but also go out to, investors now for the business because they had that really early experience.
They asked you, or did you apply?
They asked Parla. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they actually scout a lot of brands.
Really?
I think you can apply, but
I've had a lot of businesses on the podcast before that have been on Dragon's Den, and yeah, some people have been asked, but most of them that I've spoken to, they've applied themselves.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, no, we'd never really, because obviously we were so early into our trading journey. We had I think 2 months of sales under our belt or something.
Really? Wow.
Stupid
so you
like
can,
that.
You can be like really early and still get not only a place, but like 2 offers.
Yeah, I think it was just because the press and the buzz that Parla had created around its launch, because, it was coming out of a really outdated industry. Everyone was really excited. Their position within the dental industry meant that, this massive group of dentists were really excited about it and just wanted to see what happened. So yeah, the press that we had was fantastic around the launch. And I think the BBC obviously saw that and thought, this could be interesting. We haven't really had anything in toothpaste or, dental to come on the show before. So
you do retailers, but you also do direct to consumer and other, so you say omni-channel. How important is that as well? Because so many people think, you have to get into retail, and obviously you guys are in retail as well, but how valuable are those other channels that you guys are on as well?
So valuable. I mean, our direct to consumer, so how it works, just for context, is you sign up on a subscription or not. And then every 4 months, your tabs get redelivered to you, but in a compostable sachet. So you can refill your jar at home, and it's truly closed loop. It's zero waste. You can put the compostable refill just straight into your food caddy, and it will biodegrade over time. But those customers that we have direct to consumer through our website and through that channel, they're really important to us because it's a direct line of communication that we have. And for us, that's really special. And over the 4 or 5 years of trading that we've now had, we have an amazing community of people that have been with us from the start and just love the product. They love what we stand for, and they've really grown with us.
Yeah.
And they've been a fundamental part of shaping not only the product, but feeding in, what products do they want? What sizes do they want? Do they have feedback on your price point? So for us, that's been, a really, really important channel. I mean, as you say, retail is very competitive, and people do think they need to be in retail to be successful. And I would say that while retail is an amazing channel, it doesn't have to be your only channel or doesn't have to be your main focus. And I almost feel retailers sometimes like the fact that you have your own channel because it's proof of sales, proof of concept. You have an audience that you can directly speak to and market to, which is wonderful. But yeah, I mean, the retail landscape is definitely tough. And obviously you have to think you're selling through a third-party person, so you're never going to make quite as much money as you do selling direct to consumers.
The way I think about it, I'm not in FMCG or anything like close to what you guys do. However, from my perspective, it looks like you have the retail channel where it's all about sort of volume. So it's all about sort of people coming in. But I feel like the consumer loyalty of those individual consumers isn't actually that high. Like they would use other brands and stuff. You basically have to try to count on them like converting to you guys on a longer term basis, which is difficult. But then you have the direct consumer routes. But these guys are sort of die hard your brand, and even doing things like subscription is like a mental barrier to get over in order to like buy into a brand, right? So if they're on a subscription, that's also like another mental hurdle that they've overcome. One, like buying your product, but then also committing to like doing it every month. Like that's a pretty big mental strain. So I feel like that audience that you've built, even though it must be like fewer people than what you'd get on retail, the quality of those customers is far higher. I don't know if you disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, our direct-to-consumer channel is really important to us. It's people that have committed to the subscription, they've committed to Parlour, and they like using the product. And for them, it's easy because they don't have to think, oh, I've run out of toothpaste. It's delivered straight to their door. And I mean, subscription-based businesses, we now see more and more of them popping up. So razors, men's skincare, there's so many. And I think it's just taking that kind of choice, well, not choice, but the difficulty of having to go out and purchase away from the consumer. It's just much easier for them. But yeah, obviously, naturally, you don't have the same volume as you would do in retail, just because your footfall is so much less. Whereas, in the shelves of Sainsbury's, they get hundreds of thousands of people every day. So your volumes will be naturally higher. But as you say, you can't really track your customer retention as well. We can't directly speak to those customers unless I'm physically in the store shouting at them to buy Parlour. So yeah, it's certainly just completely different channels, both completely valuable to the business, but both with their own pros for sure.